the basics of executive presence. Now, there's a lot of slides that I could have done about this, but honestly, if I were to tell you a few things, the first thing definitely is that executive presence does not stand on its own. It is not a standalone. Executive presence is something that people call it the X factor. Some people refer to it as charisma. For some, it's that's je ne sais quoi, that people can't actually manage. For others, it's a mix and a melange of habits, of skills, traits, and attitudes, and you don't have to be an executive to have executive presence. You have to understand executive presence also in the context of where you are. What does executive presence mean where you are? What does executive presence mean when it comes to your organization? And one of the things that I wrote here, and I put tips on practically every slide just so that you can find this extremely comfortable, right? So we will go through some tips and tricks, but the main thing here is, how do I get feedback and stand out? So if you really want to be good at executive presence, how do I get feedback? How do I know how I am showing up? How do my words convey, confidence? How do I lead or stand back? It's important to find your own sphere of network, or your own personal board of directors, as I like to call them, in terms of how you show up, okay? And I have a few exercises, so I hope you have your pen and your paper ready as we go along, just so that we can, also manage time as well. When it comes to executive presence, it's usually about authenticity, right? It's about who you are. So you write down, what is the one thing that I want to be known for? What is the one thing that I want to be known for in terms of how I come across? Yeah, is it really my boldness? Is it how caring I am? Is it how studious I am? Is it about what I know? What is that one thing that you want to be known for? I want you to think through it, because again, remember, I said executive presence is about being deliberate. It's about self-awareness. What is the one thing that you want to be known for? Okay, as we think about that, it is extremely important that that is what you keep at the back of your mind in terms of how you lead, how you show up. Yeah, that's extremely important. All right, so let us go straight into these building blocks. And again, let me know, I hope you can all see my slides at this point in time. Guys, if you do not like how you feel, if you are not comfortable in your own skin, it will show. Executive presence is first and foremost about how you feel. It's about self-awareness, which is complementary to executive presence. I said it at the very beginning. You must be comfortable in your own skin. You must be comfortable. You must be able to rely on your natural strength. And honestly, everybody has strength. Everybody has something that they bring to the table, something that they bring to the interview, something that they bring to the party. Yeah? And in terms of being confident, mindful, and intentional, that has to be about, yes, who you are and how you feel. Yeah, it has to be about you not being afraid. And even if you are afraid, how do you do it being afraid? How do you do it with fear? How do you make sure that you do not disqualify yourself because you're afraid? Fear is normal. It is absolutely normal. And therefore, even if you are introverted, even if you are the one that likes to stay in the shadows, you can communicate in your most authentic way. You can be the one that brings data to the table. You can be the one that speaks in a soft voice. But the first building block of executive presence is making sure that you can rely on your natural strengths. I asked somebody before who became a client of mine, and I said, you know what is it that are your natural strengths? What are your strengths? And this person looked at me very, very sincerely and said, I don't know. In my mind and in my heart, I really had to take a hard, it was a hard pill for me to swallow, especially for somebody who spent 6 years in consulting. I've always, been familiar with those psychometric assessments and everything. I said, in the next 2 weeks, you will know your strengths. You will know where, you will know who you are and what is unique about you. And I took her through a strengths coaching, session where at the end of the day, it wasn't just about how she's, how her strengths, how she can lead with her strengths, but it was also about how authentic she can also lead. If you do not feel good about yourself, if you are not confident, mindful, and intentional about who you are and putting that out there, executive presence then becomes, a bit difficult. So the first thing is you being able to be self-aware and complement that with that executive presence. Now, in terms about how you feel, I don't want to discard the issue of fear, self-doubt, and the imposter syndrome. Ladies and gentlemen, these three friends, I don't even know what else to call them friends anymore, but this trio, they are real. There are some of us that even executive presence becomes so difficult because people can't even, we feel that, oh, it's only a matter of time that they know that I don't belong here. It's only a matter of time that they know that I'm a fraud. It's only a matter of time that, it's clear that I shouldn't even be here. But you see, fear, self-doubt, and the imposter syndrome, I don't know if they ever really leave. They might diminish. They might get smaller. The voices might get quieter. But the most important thing is, guys, you've got to bring these friends along. The only thing is that when you then start to do it afraid, when you start to speak up in meetings, when you start to do it with your sweaty palms and your sweaty brows, I promise you, you become more confident. When you get better prepared, you become more confident. You move forward regardless. You get prepared and you make sure that you are able to play all of the scenarios. What else can happen? What else can they ask me? You get to play those scenarios in your head, but you move forward regardless. They're not going to go away. They can be self-sabotaging inner voices, but the thing about it is that, trust me, the more you move forward, even afraid, the better you move forward, even afraid, the better it becomes, the more confident it becomes. Don't wait until you are confident. Do it afraid until you become more confident. That is the way it works. That is the real secret at the end of the day. Okay? Another exercise for you when you think about fear, self-doubt, and imposter syndrome, and honestly, I know I'm making this sound a bit simple. There are those of us that may need more help with this. I haven't always been this confident. Have I? Yeah, okay. Maybe, but I haven't always been this confident in every situation. I haven't always been so Just being confident in my own skin in every situation. No, it has come with years of practice, of affirming, of prayer, of knowing that, you know what, I'm here to do something. I'm here to deliver something. There is something that I don't know that the people, there's something that I know that not everybody else knows. There's something that makes you unique. I can preach that for another hour, the uniqueness, your unique value proposition. But for now, let's go on with how you feel. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is possible. So, let's think about it. As you think about conquering your own fears, your own self-doubt, as you think about dealing with the imposter syndrome, which, by the way, is real, it is true, and you have to move forward despite that. And that is really one of the ways of saying, you know what, I'm competent. There's a reason why I'm here. And again, I said, do it afraid. So who or what situations challenge your executive presence? Who or what situations challenge your executive presence? What are those times, those situations, or who? Is it your boss, where you see him in a presentation and you shiver? Is it your CEO, whose ears are so piercing when it comes to a presentation? Is it that interviews are getting you to have the shivers? I want you to take note of them. Write it down. Who or what situations challenge your executive presence? Because you see, when you know what challenges your executive presence or stops you from creating your executive voice, you know exactly how best to tackle it. All right. Someone says that there are those who actually act like they have seen it all and they know it all. Yes, and that's why you also have to be very clear about your own brag book, like I say on Instagram sometimes, and your accomplishments. A client said to me the other day, I feel so self-conscious when I talk about my accomplishments or standing out there. You've earned it. Stand out, brag. You have earned it. No, it doesn't make you look boastful. There are ways that you do it very tactfully, but there's nothing wrong with calling out your accomplishments. It has gotten you where you are. It has gotten you in the position that you are. It has even helped you to be in transition, and therefore there's nothing to be shy or fearful or afraid about. That is exactly what it is that gives you that poise, that energy, that confidence. And yes, you might not have seen everything, Molade, but yeah, you have seen some things as well. Let's move on swiftly. Second building block of executive presence is how you look. Yes, you've earned it, hype yourself. How you look. Now, how you look is not about fashion. How you look is about you're being intentional enough to make a lasting first impression when you meet someone, when you meet that stakeholder, when you step into that room. There is a way that you can own the room just by the way you look. You look like you care. You look like you've put some energy into it. Not too much energy. We don't want you looking like you're not recognizable, but we want you to look competent. We want you to look ready. We want you to look like you are good to go. We want you to look successful or successful. So you have to take time to consider your grooming, consider your clothing. Yes, you may want to be current, okay? But you don't necessarily want to overdo it. And you want to dress for the context that you are in. If you are having a company retreat where the code is smart casual and you're going to give a presentation, do you need to be in a suit? Again, dress for the context that you're doing, but how you look is extremely important. And how you look is also not just about what you are wearing, right? It is also about your poise. It's about how you move. Your look is very much about, and you know that you are giving off a message, you are giving off information when you practically sit at the edge of the table or behind everybody else where no one can see you, and you are practically poised like this. And you're the one looking everywhere, making sure that nobody calls your name. Executive presence doesn't do that. Executive presence means that you show up at the table. Let me tell you something, even if you have butterflies in your stomach, it means that you show up with intention. It means that you move with energy. Again, all I can say with this is that be deliberate. Be deliberate about every move. Be deliberate about how you want to be perceived. Somebody showed up to my class one time in a former employee of mine, and this is an environment where people would typically wear suits and everything, and this person came up in a very tight jumpsuit. Tight, I'm telling you. And even if jumpsuits are in, there are some jumpsuits that are just maybe for the beach or the beach house, and there are some jumpsuits that are for the office. Wear the jumpsuit that's for the office if you want to be taken seriously. How you look is part of your executive presence. Ensure that your appearance is appropriate for the setting, the company culture, and that it is consistent, extremely consistent with what it is that you want to aspire to. And I always say, dress for where you are going, not necessarily just where you are. So if you want to be considered for that next row and you're the person looking like, the tea girl, no, you're not communicating. So how does your look, your poise, your energy, what is it communicating? And you want it to communicate a positive executive presence. All right, let us move on. Another building block is very much about how you relate. But before we go to how you relate, again, your pens and paper in front of you, and if you want to type it on there, please go ahead. But what two changes? So just from what I've said, and it's probably got you thinking, right? But what two changes can you immediately make to upgrade the way you look? We've said how you look is not just about clothes. I mean, I even boiled it down to your glasses frame, your hair, your makeup. You don't want to look too overdone, but at the same time, you don't want to look too ordinary, right? You want to make sure that you care. You want to make sure that you look like you care. So what are those two that you can think about immediately? And I'd like some people to type in, the chat box as well. What do you need to do, okay, to upgrade your look? What are those two things? Please share them with us. Okay, someone says pay more attention to makeup and dress sense. Smile. That is so important. That is so important because they say that you wear the clothes. The clothes should really not be wearing you. So it shouldn't be, it's not just the style of the clothes in terms of being baggy and things like that. That's not what I mean. But it's now your poise. Square your shoulders, look forward. How are you carrying yourself? That's actually quite important. Your steps, how you're moving, how you greet. Okay, now let me go to a bit of greeting now when it comes to another building block. Another building block is how you relate. I cannot tell you this enough by somebody who's climbed the corporate ladder for 20 plus years. It is very much about how you relate. It is very much about your warmth. It is very much about how you introduce yourself, how you are approachable and relatable, regardless of what levels that you're in. Some believe that even though you've actually entered the C-suite, then it's at that time that you have to keep a frown on your face, be pompous, nobody can come beside you. No, that's not executive presence. Executive presence is about, even though you are in the game, you are projecting passion, you're projecting enthusiasm. You are the one that's, yes, you're introducing yourself, but you're also introducing others. You're making your conversations inclusive. and not the one, and not acting like you are the only one in the room. How you relate is very much about your interpersonal abilities. Because, I mean, trust me, when people look at you and they're looking at your credibility, how you can be considered for opportunities, trust me, it is very much about how you come across, how you relate. And some always, you know, some of us say that, well, you know what, I'll wait until I know everything. I'll wait until I know what to do. But again, how you relate, how you are poised, is very much about putting yourself out there. Don't be scared. Don't be afraid. Will you make mistakes? Like I said, the best thing is have people around you that can give you good feedback. Don't be scared of being judged. Feedback at the end of a day is a gift. And guess what? I have always learned, you step out, people will talk. You don't step out, people will talk. So why don't you step out anyway? Why don't you step out and do it afraid anyway? So it is in the doing that you are learning. Somebody, mentioned voice modulation and all of that. I will take care of that in the executive voice when we actually talk about executive voice in the, in the proper context. Again, where you have questions and you start thinking about them, please drop them in the Q&A box so that when it's time for Q&A, I can just focus my attention on that. I know that we're expecting a few more people, so I know that once we're just trying to get that settled so that you can ask your friends to join. So we're going to open it up more for more than 100 so that you can have people join. So please just ask them to stay put. There's still a lot to cover, and then we can join. Now, how are you perceived is the other building block. It is not important to, it is important to take care of how you look. It is important to take care of how you relate. Executive presence is very much about how you ensure that you manage perception proactively. Manage perception proactively. There's some of us, we get into a meeting, we are constantly rushing. We're constantly late. We're the one that, flies in through the door at 5 minutes past. You can be ready. You can use your time wisely. You don't appear rushed and overwhelmed. We're the ones that go in and we've forgotten everything. This thing takes practice, ladies and gentlemen, and it takes a lot of being, again, very deliberate and being self-aware. I am one of those culprits. Late coming. I had to not only pinch myself many times, but one day I had to really tell myself, okay, if you want to be serious, if you want to be taken seriously, or you want to be taken seriously for promotion, the next role, people are watching your credibility. People are watching the fact that, are you able to, can you build capacity? How can you influence others if you cannot take care of yourself? So you know what? It doesn't mean that we don't deal with chaos, but as much as possible, let that chaos take place in the background. It is important to actively manage in the minds of people how you want to be perceived. And this also comes with you being able to actively manage your own stakeholders. So you've come in front of stakeholders, you've done a really good job at, presenting in front of the CEOs and his directs, and you are 1 or 2 levels down. How do you manage them going forward? Executive presence is making sure that you remain top of mind in the hearts and minds of people. And therefore, there are some stakeholders when it comes to your communicating, an email, will do. There's a stakeholder of mine, I meet with this individual no less than once or twice a month. They are one of my key stakeholders, and I make sure I catch up with them over coffee. It's part of managing my executive presence. There are those that perhaps it's really once a quarter, show your face, let them know exactly what you're doing, update them on your on your projects, on your programs, on your team. Executive presence is about staying in the game. Don't disappear from view. And if you're bringing something that is of value, then you've got to find the right channels to regularly communicate that. Who will you send an email to? Who do you have to catch up with over a cup of coffee? Who do you need to send a quarterly report to? And so on and so forth. Those are the things that you need to keep at the back of your mind to manage how you are perceived up front. And by the way, you may have also had a really terrible reputation. There was a time I was in, at work one day, and because I didn't hold my mouth, I didn't observe the game. As you need to go and watch my what was it now? It was a webinar I did with Glory Edozian, Win at Work. It was about managing politics. You need to go and watch it. I think it's available on Glory's platform as well as Coachivate. It really tells you how to actively manage being top of mind with people. That is so very important. I'm trying to look at time and keep time just so that we are not. So remember, we are also coming to how it is that you relate. All right. Okay, I haven't asked you this question yet. I just realized that. When you cite a difficult situation, how will you step up your executive presence in this? So cite a difficult situation. And I'm sure you're thinking about it even as I've spoken about a few examples. How will you step up your executive presence in that situation? I've talked about how you look, talked about how you relate, talked about how you are perceived. Now you talk about one or two things. Think about it. One or two things that you can do, whether actively or proactively, that you need to step up your executive presence in this situation. I'm going to give you a few seconds to think through that, because again, as you think through and you work on this, you write them down, you keep them somewhere, you know exactly what it is that you need to focus on. That is the essence of this exercise. Thank you so much, Feishayo, for posting the link to the webinar. God bless you. Thank you. All right. Now, one of the building blocks, the most important maybe, of executive presence is how you communicate. But I'm going to come to how you communicate in just a few minutes, okay? Because that is where I want to talk about how you bring forward, discover, and master your executive voice. I could call this many things: your authentic voice, your signature voice, and it's not just your pitch. It's not about having a raised voice. It's about so many things. But so give me a few minutes and then we'll actually go into that. But in terms of executive presence in itself, mastering executive presence is not something that we can do in an hour. I can give you the basics, I can give you the building blocks, but honestly, I have quite a number of clients who say, you know what, one came to me the other day and she knew that she was ready for promotion. She knew that she was being considered for an internal promotion, but it now boiled down to how she was going to present herself, how she was going to show up. And she said, Falake, I want, what she actually said, she says, I want what you have. I said, no, it's not about what I have. What I have, yes, I can help you learn it, but we've got to bring you to what it is that you have authentically. How do you show off and bring your executive presence out authentically. And honestly, guys, this comes with personal reflection, it comes with planning, it comes with preparation, and it comes with practice. And honestly, if you are going to get it done, and what did I do with her? We went through 3 sessions. One was being able to identify her unique value proposition, first of all, and to get rid of the self-limiting beliefs that you cannot step forward. The second thing that we did was a role play. I became the panel, she became the interviewee. How are you going to answer your questions? I practically had my timer with me. How do you make sure that you tell people what it is that they know and you're not rambling? You are using simple words and you're not going on and on about it. It is extremely important that you're able to reflect, you're able to plan, and you're able to prepare if you're actually going to master that presence. What was the last thing that we did? I took her through, so being I'm an NLP coach. NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. We had to deal with some issues that were in her past, some things that she had believed. Somebody had said a few things to her and she practically believed them. It shut down her mind from opening up. And what we then did is we had to go into the depths of that issue to unearth what exactly was going on so that we could help her show up strongly. So yes, there are times that in preparation, you might need to unpeel the onion and get that out of the way.